Imagine this for a moment. You're asleep in your own home, your family is safe beside you when suddenly your front door explodes open. Flashbang grenades go off. Armed FBI agents storm inside, yelling commands. You're dragged out of bed, thrown in handcuffs, and your wife has a gun pointed at her head. And here's the most unbelievable part. They raided the wrong house. Now picture this. After everything you just went through, you try to hold the government accountable, and they respond by saying you can't sue them. That exact situation made its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and what happened next could change the way we think about government accountability forever. The court issued a 9-0 unanimous ruling, and it's a decision that every gun owner, every homeowner, and every American who values civil liberties should know about. This is the story of Martin v. United States, a case that began in suburban Atlanta back in 2017. That year, the FBI planned a pre-dawn raid to arrest suspected gang members. But something went terribly wrong. The lead agent, Lawrence Guerrera, was in charge of executing the operation. Instead of using official GPS coordinates or confirming the address, he typed it into his personal phone. The route his phone gave him led the entire FBI team to the wrong home, the home of Katrina Martin, her boyfriend, and their 7-year-old son. Moments later, agents smashed through the front door, threw in flashbang grenades, and stormed the living room. Katrina and her boyfriend were pulled from their home, handcuffed, and held at gunpoint while their terrified child cried in the background. Then, during the chaos, one agent noticed something strange, a piece of mail on the coffee table. He picked it up and realized it had a completely different address. That's when the horrifying truth hit them. They had raided the wrong home. The Martins were left traumatized. Their front door destroyed, their peace shattered, and their trust in law enforcement broken. They decided to sue the federal government under a law called the Federal Tort Claims Act, or FTCA for short. The FTCA allows private citizens to sue the federal government for wrongful actions by its employees, but it also contains a long list of exceptions that protect the government from liability. The FBI's lawyers immediately relied on those exceptions to block the lawsuit. They argued that the family had no right to sue under two main defenses, the intentional tort exception and the discretionary function exception. Here's what those mean. The intentional tort exception normally prevents people from suing the government over deliberate acts, like assault, false arrest, or battery. However, there's a narrow carve-out called the law enforcement proviso, which says that if the wrongdoing was committed by a law enforcement officer, someone who can execute searches, seize evidence, or make arrests, then a lawsuit can go forward. The second defense was the discretionary function exception, which protects the government when agents make discretionary decisions as part of their jobs. In this case, the FBI argued that Agent Guerrera had simply exercised discretion when he chose to use his personal GPS, even though that decision led them to the wrong address. When the Martins filed their case, the federal district court in Georgia sided with the government, ruling that the FBI couldn't be sued. The family appealed to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, but the result was the same. The court again ruled in favor of the FBI. It seemed like the family had reached a dead end. But they weren't done fighting. They petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court, and to their surprise, the court agreed to hear their case. Earlier this year, the Supreme Court issued its ruling, and it was a unanimous 9-0 decision. Written by Justice Neil Gorsuch, the opinion completely rejected the government's arguments and vacated the 11th Circuit's decision. The court ruled that the law enforcement proviso only modifies the intentional tort exception. It doesn't automatically shield the government from all liability. In simpler terms, the FBI can't just wave the discretionary card every time an agent makes a serious mistake. Justice Gorsuch made it clear. The Federal Tort Claims Act was designed to hold the government accountable under the same standards that apply to private citizens. If a private person would be liable under state law for the same action, then the government should be too. Because of that, the Supreme Court sent the case back to the 11th Circuit for a fresh review, this time with a much narrower interpretation of government immunity. Now, the 11th Circuit has ordered the FBI and the Department of Justice to file supplemental briefs explaining how this Supreme Court ruling affects the case going forward. The DOJ recently requested an extension until November 21st, claiming that the federal government shutdown has delayed their ability to respond. But make no mistake, they can only stall for so long. The courts have already warned that shutdown or not, these filings will have to happen soon. And when they do, the FBI will have to face the consequences of this ruling. So what does all this mean, especially for gun owners and anyone concerned about government overreach? This case might not be directly about the Second Amendment, but it sets a powerful precedent. It reinforces the idea that no government agency is above accountability. The Supreme Court's 9-year ruling makes it harder for the federal government to hide behind immunity when its agents make reckless mistakes, like invading the wrong home or misusing their power. It's a victory for accountability, for fairness, and for ordinary Americans who just want to live without fear of being wrongfully targeted by their own government. This is why Martin v. United States matters. It's not just about one family in Georgia, it's about every family in America. If you found this breakdown helpful and want to stay informed on critical court cases like this one, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Also, let me know what you think. Should federal agents face personal liability in cases like this? Or should the government continue to shield them from lawsuits? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to keep learning about major Supreme Court decisions shaping your rights, check out the videos on your screen right now. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay informed, stay aware, and stay free.